Hello everyone. If required, please pause and have a look. This is the brief overview of Nifty and Bank Nifty price action from last week. So for the third week in a row, Nifty outperformed Bank Nifty. With that in mind, let's discuss in detail about what happened last week, weekly wrap for the September month, second week 2025. Before last Monday, during that weekend, lot had happened geopolitically. US jobs data for August month came really very bad. Though it's bad for economy, that improved the prospect of rate cut next week, which in turn made the whole week global momentum positive. Then from India perspective, the positive momentum continued due to the GST rationalization approval. And in addition, the sentiment between India and the US improved for the first time after 2 months of continuous deterioration. In the White House press conference, Trump said that he's having good relationship with India and Modi and nothing to worry kind of. Then the same reporter asked whether trade discussion going on or not, and for that he said yes. So in response on Saturday, our Prime Minister Modi made a tweet that he was deeply appreciated and reciprocating the Trump's sentiment, and he agreed that India and the US having the positive relationship as it. So this created the additional positive environment as it increases the sentiment between India and US. However, some US senator introduced the bill in the US Senate called Hire Act to place 25% tax on the US companies for their payments to the foreign companies for the outsourcing services. Basically, 25% tariff on all Indian IT companies' exports to US. As we discussed in detail on the Tuesday pre-market video, unlikely US will implement this act and this is just a publicity stunt. However, our media created some buzz around, hence on Monday, Indian IT stocks had some severe pressure. So the Indian market Monday price action was the result of US-India trade sentiment improvement versus the Hire Act chaos. But still, Nifty managed to close on the positive note like marginal 30 points. Then moving to Tuesday, market was mainly driven by Infosys and IT stocks. Nifty increased about 100 points, out of which 85 points were from IT stocks, particularly Infosys, which contributed near 70 points. All thanks to the Infosys shares buyback filing with SEBI. Here, please bear in mind, at that time they haven't mentioned anything like how much they are going to do, what price, those details. So, market expected the buyback worth could be around 10,000 crore rupees. Other than the IT stocks, on Tuesday, due to the weekly expiry, all other stocks traded somewhat mute. Whereas on Wednesday early morning, before our market opening, Trump made this tweet that he was pleased to announce that India and United States are continuing negotiations to address the trade barriers. And in addition, he was looking forward to speak with Indian Prime Minister Modi kind of, which in turn made our market to increase another 100 points. It seems Indian market is kind of hesitant to believe Trump completely, so they are not reacting big at all, since during June-July period, he said the same things like trade negotiations with India is going well, but then in August, he imposed 50% tariff. So Indian market struggling to take Trump's word completely. Then on the next two sessions, both Thursday and Friday, global momentum was driven by US inflation data. First Thursday, US wholesale inflation for August month came as very low. Particularly, service inflation fell compared to July month, which shows the demand softening. However, on the positive side, again this increased the prospect of rate cut further, which in turn helped the Nifty to pass above 25,000 mark on Thursday. Then on the same evening, US core consumer inflation didn't increase. It came same as previous month, which market took that as positive and struck to the food and fuel price increase. In addition, Infosys announced the shares buyback for 18,000 crore rupees, which all added the more positive momentum and made the Nifty to cross above 25,100 mark. In short, US-India trade sentiment improvement, Infosys shares buyback influence, US next week rate cut optimism, and to some extent GST rationalization approval all made the Nifty to increase 370 points or 1.5%. Then on Bank Nifty case, it increased 1.3% or near 700 points. Here, please note, at present, Nifty closed positive for the 8 straight sessions. And if you see sector wise, only consumer durables closed negative around 1%, all others closed positive. IT was the major gainer, increased 4.3%, followed by PSU banks, metal, auto, mid cap, pharma, small cap, energy, finance and healthcare. All those increased around 2%. Whereas stocks wise on the Nifty 50, BEL, Bajaj Finance, Shriram Finance, Infosys and Adani Ports, those 5 stocks increased above 5%. And on the downside, Trent was the major dragger, down 7%, whereas Titan, Zomato, IndusInd Bank and HUL down 2 to 3%. Then about institution wise, in the cash market, surprisingly for 2 sessions, FI turned as net buyers, which is very odd, and in one session on Wednesday, they net sold only for 115 crore rupees. So they were very kind to Indian market for 3 sessions, and thus overall on the weekly basis they net sold only for 3600 crore rupees, which then translates on an average for every session they net sold only for 620 crore rupees. And still their average daily gross purchase and gross sales value was at least 40% less compared to what they used to do like 2-3 months ago. Then moving to DII, in all 5 trading sessions, they were net buyers. Even yesterday, they net bought for little above 1550 crore rupees. And on weekly basis, last week alone, DII net bought for 13,700 crore rupees. So on an average, they net bought for 2,750 crore rupees each session, which is more than 4 times higher than the average FII's net sold value. So that's all about the Indian stock market. Other than that, every week in the international market, gold keeps on increasing. It crossed $3,650 per ounce. All thanks to Trump, as he created the trade war, all countries shifting their focus to gold, and it's kind of undermining the dollar trust. And macro wise, just now India's consumer inflation data for August month was released, which is very good and came about 2.07%, slightly above the July month data, but it's well below the RBI's median target 4%. About the detailed analysis, we'll look about it either in week ahead or on the Monday's pre-market. And rupee wise, it was very stable. All 5 trading sessions, it traded between 88 to 88.4. Here, the surprising thing, India's forex reserve value for the week ended 5th September 2025 increased by $4 billion to $698 billion. So, RBI is not selling dollar for the rupee stabilization. Rather, they are buying dollar to keep the rupee stable, which means at present there is a sufficient dollar inflow into the Indian market. So that's all in this video. Hope you all got some useful information. Please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video so that it will help me beat the YouTube algorithm and also motivate me to do more. Please don't make any investment based on this, as I'm not a SEBI registered advisor. I'm doing this for me and viewers' educational purpose only. Thanks for watching.